Welcome to the Portress podcast. This is the end of season review for the season 2025 AFL season. With me is Gavin Watson. G'day, Gavin. How you going?
Oh, good, Matt. Yourself?
Terrific, mate. So yeah, we regularly do the She's Got the Power podcast. It's a little bit of a promotion for those that haven't gone over and listened to that podcast. We do a podcast each week for the AFLW season. We've
We
got
do.
you for the end of season review, mate. So just real quickly, you go to all the games, the AFL games, just as you did the AFLW, or just watching them all most on TV? What's your just give a bit of an insight for the viewers on your AFL experience and knowledge of
Look,
the
just yeah,
season.
look. You used to be a season ticket holder and go to every game. With the inception of the AFLW, sort of the second season there onwards, we go to all the women's games and
Yep.
occasionally to a men's game. But yeah, the games we don't go to, we watch on telly.
Yep.
Um, but
Excellent.
yeah, long time supporter, and
Brilliant.
yeah, thanks for the opportunity to go through reviewing the season with you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thank you, and thank you for giving your time up to do this. I really appreciate it. So before we get into round one, just real quickly, a grading of the season, and did it play out as you predicted from the beginning of the season?
Like to finish the season with 9 wins and 14 losses and finish 13th. That's Ken Hinckley's last season. That's the worst results that he's had at any point in time with Port. So if you were marking the season, you'd say it's
Yep.
somewhere in the C minus D kind of region. In that
Agree.
that wasn't something that was expected or hoped for. In terms of, was there anybody that jumped out and that showed themselves as expected?
Yeah.
I'd look, probably Mitch Georgiades exceeded expectation,
How great.
um,
Exciting.
and Zak Butters showed that he is one of the premier players in the competition, and he's so vitally important to the side. And ideally, we'd love to have him on the ground every week for every game. And if he's there, then we're generally very competitive and every chance of winning.
And before we get into round one, real quickly, a grading from Connor Rosie. I believe I'll just give you my opinion quickly. I believe in patches he showed exactly what we love about him. There was obviously that season. He's had one or two seasons where he's just had a great season all around. But again, this year where it's patchy, and I look forward to hopefully a new fresh start with a new coach and everything. I'm looking forward to seeing an exciting, just another more maturity of a young man growing into
Yeah,
mature man there with the team.
no, agreed. On field, he was a bit patchy like the team. Um, Off the field, I actually think he showed that he will be a good long term captain. There were
Point.
times where he dealt with situations really well, and he
Yeah.
showed good leadership in that regard. But yeah, more consistent efforts on the field would be of great benefit to the club.
Well,
Absolutely.
well said. Excellent. So round one, I mean, 21 10 136 for 6 9 45, a loss of obviously 91 points against Collingwood at the MCG. Shall we just move on to round two? So real quickly, yeah, that's not a good start. We just knew that from even the fixture that this is just going to be uphill battle from the beginning.
Uh, Agreed, but yeah, the way the side presented for a round one game
Yeah.
was yeah sub what anybody would have expected. They're just non-competitive for the
Yeah.
entirety of the game,
Yeah, no
and
excuse, was it? I mean, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, surely you may not win the game, but you really wanted to be competitive, and that was disappointing.
no, exactly.
We move on to round two. We get back to home. We have a Richmond side that's kind of trying to find some positives, and there's a kind of an uphill. They're starting from a very low base again, and they're winning every quarter. They're kind of looking at every quarter as a win or loss, and just really trying to find wins everywhere instead of even winning the game. We win
Yeah,
by 72 points. Now one win, one loss after two rounds. How did you feel about that game? Any weight on it at all?
Look, Richmond weren't expected to do much during the season, given the massive turnover they had. They brought in a swathe of quality new footballers. Yet Richmond started the season in round one much better than anybody expected, and from us, yeah. But the first two rounds kind of encapsulates what the rest of the season was like. It was the lowest of low troughs and the highest of high.
Well
It's
said.
just, yeah, you'd love to snip a bit off the high and really lift the low so that there's more consistency and
You
in
can
what the team.
actually bridge the gap between your worst and best. Absolutely.
Travis Boak broke Russell Ebert's club games record in that
Oh yeah.
match against Richmond in round two. So
Yep.
that was
That was
certainly
huge.
something that's worth mentioning.
Milestone.
Huge servant of the club, and yeah, I mean, if you go back to when Ken Hinkley started, the club was on its knees, and Travis's decision to stay at the club is seen as being a catalyst for how the side's gone over the sort of the duration of, with the last season excluded, how well the side has gone during that period of time.
Round three, but the second game away, and we already, and we're going away already for the third game of the season. So we have an Essendon side that showed such a poor performance throughout the whole season. But yeah, they get away with a win, a 12-point win, 9-18, 72, 8-12, 60. One that got away. I think still to this, when you look at the whole season, that was one of the highlighting moments where it's one that got away when you're looking at the fixture and saying, yeah, we can beat Essendon at Marvel.
Absolutely. Yep. For those of us that can remember it, the the skill level from both sides wasn't
Oh,
great.
it's a terrible
There was a
performance.
3 week patch where Mitch Georgiades in the first half absolutely took the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah.
But in all 3 games, he had 5 shots at goal, but he only
Yep.
kicked 2 goals. I think he kicked 2 goals, 2 in each of those games, and one on the full. And it's not the difference between, well, it kind of can be the difference between winning or losing. It just sets the tone. But the Essendon game, it was more like the both sides were interested in how far people could run. The ball usage was dreadful. And then the Essendon just had that little bit more and got over the top. But like you said, that was a game that if we were going to have a half decent season, that's a game we should have won, and we just weren't capable of doing that. The main injury of note was in round three when Jack Lukosius fractured his kneecap.
That's right.
So he was out
Lost him.
for a large chunk of the season. Again, that in itself is that sides get injuries, but it just our lack of depth. But it also highlights what such a significant season that Mitch Georgiades had as a forward to kick as many goals as he did, given that whilst Ollie Lord provided height, Georgiades was the most hit up target throughout the entirety of the season of any side in the competition.
You go into round four and you think, okay, that's just lesson learnt. Let's not do that again. A side we should have won. We play St Kilda at home. This is come on. This is an absolute. You don't want to have an assumption of winning every game, but you want to have an assumption of playing really well in every game, especially when you're playing against a team that the result will take care of itself. But it does not take care of itself if you allow a side to get away from you. And also, from my memory, I may be barking up the wrong tree, but I think St Kilda kind of won this game 10-12, 72 Port Adelaide, 13-11, 89 St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. They won by 17 points on the back of, I think, just winning a couple of moments from my memory, scoring a couple of goals, late in quarters and stuff at just pivotal moments when we normally do that. So that was one that got away.
Yeah, and certainly not an excuse, but those by this stage it already showed that the side didn't have the depth that we'd hoped for. To have Zirk Thatcher out with a back injury,
Yep.
Todd Marshall out for the whole season with these Achilles, Zak Butters didn't play in the first 3 rounds, and we just our defence. I mean, the last trial match we had Finlayson playing in centre half back in the trial match against St Kilda, and it's like, oh wow, he looks fantastic. And we tried that in round one against Collingwood, and it's like, sorry, he's not a defender. And so we were stretched, and yeah, look, the the gap between our best and worst it was too much, and yeah, St Kilda made the most of those opportunities, and we burnt too many, and it was had a horrible feeling after 4 rounds at 1-3 where the expectations would have been that we were 3-1, and so we were a long way off
Absolutely.
it.
Going the wrong way with yeah, you're right, 1 and 3 after four, and then we also had Zak Butters come back, and it was a bit patchy.
Yes,
He had some good signs, but it was just getting the run in his legs where that helped him have a great game against Hawthorn. So we kind of again not having him from the. I guess a pre-season that wasn't just from the start, just him not being 100% was frustrating, and just again a thing, one of many things that just has us, not being able to be fully competitive right near the end of the season. So round five, where we and we being Port Adelaide and the Crows are hosting all the teams at the gather round. An exciting weekend. Starting with though, I think Geelong beat Crows on a Thursday night, which gave just a great kind of a little bit of a positive feeling and nice going into Friday, Saturday, Sunday with a bit of happiness for Port fans, and then Sunday night delivers, just the absolute footy dream. 18 goals, 13, 121, 14-7, 91. Hawthorn. I think you have a Hawthorn side that had seen how we were really patchy and ordinary, and I don't think they were, playing too horribly, but fairly confident going into that game, and we got them. We absolutely pantsed them, and got them at with the wave of the crowd and the emotion. We played a very highly fast-paced, emotional, tough, emotional game. It was a highly competitive game. It wasn't an easy outside gamer at all from my memory, and
no,
it just yeah. So it was it had everything, and we're all asking where was that for the first 4 rounds, and obviously we proceed. Post that we kind of see again that hot and cold. We saw some really good signs of what we saw against Hawthorn. We saw that throughout the year, but just yeah, just a
yeah,
different two
no,
pack.
we ambushed them. By
Yeah,
half time the game was over. Like,
that's
it
right.
was a side that kind of took to the field almost expecting to win versus a side that had something to prove, not just to themselves but to their supporters, that they're actually capable of it. And again, the previous 2 weeks was such a letdown to then have this sort of sense of huge excitement.
So we go to Sydney. We play a Sydney team that didn't have Tom Papley, didn't have Errol Goulden, some other players. I think Joel and Marty wasn't even in the side. So they were really not the Sydney side that they ended up being in the latter, second half of the season, where they were far more competitive. And even we'll talk in a minute about how they exposed us only a few weeks later, back at home at Adelaide Oval. But we won this one in Sydney. I remember. My family, my two sisters there with my nephews, their boys, and it was great. They enjoyed the game at the SCG on a Sunday afternoon, and yeah, we got them. So as I said, 10-17, 77, 13-7, 85 and you kind of feel there's some confidence, for this season after that win.
Yeah, definitely. And that game again highlights that all sides need their best players on the paddock, and when
Yeah,
they are, then almost anybody, with the exception of your West Coast and North Melbourne's,
yeah.
any side could beat any side on any given day if they've got their best or close to their best players on the field.
Round seven, we get back to home and we play North Melbourne. Uh, you don't want to be beating this North Melbourne side that's getting smacked, most other weeks. And they were still pretty competitive throughout the games, but they were just always kind of just being shown up and couldn't really run out a game. But 97-88, 14-13, 97, 13-10, 88. A 9-point win's not super convincing at Adelaide Oval against North Melbourne.
No, and again, that the reason that the good sides put North away is that they don't give North a sniff, and unfortunately there were a couple of patches in that game where we let North get a run on, so they had that feeling of, well, we're in with a chance, so they stay in the game a lot more
Absolutely.
for a longer period of time, and yeah, what should have been a on paper a comfortable win turned into a horrible arm wrestle.
Absolutely. And that kind of bleeds into the following round. So, round eight, we're at Mars Stadium at Ballarat against the Bulldogs. They were hot Bulldogs at that time, too, from my memory. They played
Yes,
a
yeah,
couple of blockbuster kind of games against big sides on a Friday night and stuff. And they were playing some good footy. And so we got really pantsed 2011. 131 to 511 41. That 9 point margin against the Kangaroos is a 90 point margin against the Bulldogs, and I don't think we played any better or worse. Against the Kangaroos to the Bulldogs. It's just the Bulldogs, as you say, the run on that the Kangaroos get, is minor compared to the absolute thumping that the Bulldogs will get in their run-ons when we let them, a following week later at Ballarat.
yeah. Look, and by the end of the season, North, sorry, the Bulldogs were
Yeah,
almost flat track bullies in that they were able to comfortably beat all of the sides below them,
good
but
point.
they weren't capable of beating the sides above them. That, besides the horrible scoreline, the other
Mm,
thing that was baffling is that Mars Stadium in Ballarat was in the midst of renovation, so
yes.
there was
Right.
only 3,000 supporters.
It
Like,
was
look,
crazy. Yeah.
it's one of the most amongst the many baffling things the AFL does.
I agree
That's
there.
in their top 10 bizarro decisions, and so that should have been held at
Marvel.
Marvel.
Totally. That makes sense.
Not that the result would have been too dissimilar, but just 3,000 people to go and watch a game live, just
Yeah. Look,
at AFL that level,
fans.
that's insane.
I'm sure 3,000 Port Adelaide fans in Melbourne would have watched that game, gone to the game. So even
Oh,
like, just
easily.
easily. So that's ridiculous. So obviously there would have been some, big internal meetings, and let's get our act together, says the team, and they come out in a showdown. The build up of a showdown, home showdown. We
Yeah,
lost 12-12-84, 13-11-89 all season. I think Adelaide were playing pretty good footy from round one. Really, they were pretty competitive. So it was a game against a good side, a competitive game, and one that got away. Really, as much as you feel good about it, a good performance. But because it was such that team, that rivalry, a 5 point loss just was pretty ordinary and sort of not a good feeling. But it's nice to kind of have that feeling where you're going, oh bugger, we had that game, and so that gave me some pretty false confidence kind of going into future games, to be honest.
oh yeah. Look, that game there, we won most of
Yeah,
the the stats that are measured. We won the contested footy. We had more inside 50s,
that's right.
but the Crows won. Like, the scoreboard at the end of the day is the ultimate measure of what happens, and the Crows just were able to win more of the key points in the game. But obviously, to show you the how close it was, and the performances of players, Connor Rosey got the showdown medal in that game. So um, generally,
Right.
the player in the winning side wins the medal.
That's right.
Um, Not that you really want to be hanging it on the wall, other than at the end of your career, you can go, well, I won 1, 2,
Good point.
10 medals. But yeah, look, that one really hurt the side. Again, it showed that they were competitive, but just a little bit too raggedy around the edges, just a little bit more polish, and the result could have been so much different.
Yeah, good point. Round 10, and just goes from bad to worse. 5-9-39 to 17-13, 115 to Geelong. Obviously, a side that's obviously did pretty well to the end of the season, but boy, at home at Adelaide Oval, again, just a 76 point margin. This we're starting to clock up some big numbers, in losses. So that was
Yeah,
another disappointing game, and where skills were just all over the place. That was one from my memory that was just insanely bad when the players just forgot how to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, the Geelong, we seem to be their bunnies in that
Absolutely.
uh, all the way back to 2007. Um,
Absolutely.
the, uh, not the season just gone, but the year before when we played them at home in the finals and they dominated us.
Yuck.
It's just again all the fitness work, all the gym work, all of the training that you do is working on your fitness and
Yeah.
your team structures. But the psychological side of things is just it's so important, and uh, the the Geelong are in our heads, and
Yeah.
we need to be able to figure out a way of breaking that so that we're. I mean, we had a great win against them at Geelong last year,
That's
but
right. That's right.
um, I don't recall the last time where we've like in terms of if you said Port played Geelong and one of the sides wins by a big margin, if you ask 10 people, at least 8 or 9 of them would say, well, Geelong's the side that won. And
Absolutely. No, they're like you said, the bunnies. We're
there's
definitely their bunnies.
and yeah, look that for next and future seasons, that'll be a key measure of where we're at as a side, as to when we play Geelong, as to how we go about it, and yeah. And unfortunately, after a run of good matches, we yeah again we spat out a terrible terrible scoreline.
So I think, round 11, we got this game, and then you got a bye. We've got a week off, guys, and you can just have a break. We go over to Perth, and no, I honestly thought that, and I watched Fremantle most of the season. Just I watched a lot of the games, to be honest, at the end of the day, and yeah, I thought Fremantle, being just like us, a bit patchy and hot and cold, we have a reasonable right to say we're 50-50 going into this game, and to lose 15-10 100 to 7-9 51 was, to be honest, I think still, yeah, you can say some other performances are really bad, but uh, this one to me was one of the worst, just based on who we could have won this game. This is a game that was one that got away.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and it highlighted that for the season, our forward line just, for the most part, lacked
Yep.
that potency, and for all of the grunt that Zak Butters brings in terms of winning his own ball and distributing his own
Yeah.
ball, he doesn't he doesn't hit the scoreboard very much, and in itself that's not a problem. But when the forwards aren't providing a lot of scoreboard pressure, you
Yeah.
need your midfielders to pick up the difference, and that's not something that we were able to consistently do as a team during the year.
Just looking at another big number, 49, still kind of as a loss to me. Just I don't want to kind of do it, but it just be interesting to have seen the average kind of losing margin for us. I don't know if you can we look at that, but I just either way, I'm sure it was a pretty ordinary number, and that's the kind of, again, we need to really strengthen up. I know that our defense can look good at times, but overall, yeah, we need to get stronger and better in that defense area. So I'll chat to you about that in the future, about how we look at that. But
Yes, yeah.
didn't look too healthy throughout this year. You can't just rely on certain individuals that at the end of the game, Elia, if you just put it all on him, one man can't just do it all, So, yeah, it's
No,
a bit
no.
disappointing. We were exposed there. Following round was Giants, and we beat them. We beat them by 16 points. We beat them again in away as well in Canberra. And
Yes.
I think they obviously GWS showing that they were a patchy side, and their best is brilliant, and they're pretty special when they can get going, and then. Yeah, they can be just pretty ordinary as well. So they had a bit of a mare that day as a Saturday night game, round 13. Yeah, so we got away with the win in Canberra.
Oh, and we did, and the again the theme of sort of being very variable, that was a solid effort for most of the game. We brought the pressure, and yeah, the as you talked about, I mean, key players like Alir in defence, it ultimately it's team defence. So if the midfield and the forwards are putting pressure on the ball coming into the opposition's forward line,
Yeah.
it can't be clean delivery. If we're letting them get forward of the play, then they're able to put the ball wherever they like to the forwards, and the defenders wouldn't matter if it was like Matty Scarlett and
Yeah.
any key defenders. It's very hard to bring real pressure to that. And the GWS game was again a positive result, and showed that if the side is able to be relatively consistent in how
Yeah.
they turn up for the whole game, then the result goes their way.
So we then go from there to round 14. I think, a win against Melbourne. Melbourne Demons just had a really horrible season. So you don't take anything really from that game. It was at home. It was a Sunday afternoon. 14-9-93, 9-14-68. We beat them. And I think we beat them and move on. It was there's not you bottle some of the good signs, and I think we had some younger players showing some good signs. I think that's one of the things that we had throughout this season. A couple of debutantes, which was, uh, yeah, that was probably a little plus and a positive for the season. I kind of liked seeing some of the debutantes. So, some of these games against these sides like Melbourne, when we can get a win like that, some of these boys kind of had their moment to kind of. Get a bit of fun taste and get a win and enjoy the positive side of playing in the AFL.
Yeah. So I mean, this was uh, there's been a lot of talk about Stephen May at Melbourne, and he got asked to look around because he's sort of at the end of his career. And
Yeah,
Mitch got a hold of him and kicked 7 goals.
that's right.
And this was a period of time where um, Alir was playing some good footy, but Asava Radaglia was looking like, well, if he could play like this every week, then Port's backline, with Zerk Thatcher back in the team, our backline has some really good structure, and Radically was like really strong in the air,
Yeah.
and he'd ironed out that some of the issues with himself the year before was just this, it's so slow and telegraphing where he's going to kick the ball, so
Yep.
the opposition would generally turn his disposals back over. But he was having some really good footy, and a positive is, yeah, as you touched on, that played a team that was in a rut, and we put them away.
Well, mates, around 15, Sydney, you say a Sydney side with their full complement of players, 7-10-52 to 9-17-71. We lose to Sydney at Adelaide Oval by 19 points. Yeah, and we're starting to see the finals are out of reach, and some of the injuries are piling up. So there's some of the finger pointing, what's happening with Ken, and Sydney come out and they were getting up a little excited. They had a couple of wins. So we lose to Sydney.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It was a bit of all of those things, and Sydney were hungrier, and they had their nearly full strength side in terms of their quality players available, and in reality, the 19 points probably flattered us in that we were able to keep close, but that Sydney were by far the better side on the ground. By this stage, we'd had the mid-season draft, and but both McKinlay and Liddy had played some games for the side by then, and Ram came in for the last few games. But just again, our depth was just like shown to be like, yeah, after our important players, if they're held, we don't have depth
Yeah.
in the last few players in the side. Just are not contributing enough for us to be a competitive side.
Round 16, it's a 110 to 60, 50-point margin, 16-14, 110, 8-12, 60 to Carlton. I guess just a bit of an outlier win at Adelaide Oval on a Thursday night.
You look, at this point of the season, we had a bit of momentum up, and yeah, Carlton, like us, were a bit up and down, and we were up and they were down, and hence the result.
And it's funny because it gives us a bit of gave me a fake kind of feeling of a false kind of confidence going into a Saturday night
Yes,
following week,
yes,
5th of July, round 17. We lost Sam Powell Pepper in this game. I think we lost all our confidence by the end of this game. 18-12, 120, 14-8, 92. 28-point kind of loss with a at times threatening. I was there at the game, and Port were threatening at times, but it was never going to be a threatening chance to win the game. But just we weren't horrible. We were competitive, and that's this game summed up the season. This if you could wrap up the season in one game, I felt like I was watching it right in front of me at the Gabba.
yes, yes, yeah. And look, we picked up quite a few injuries in that game. That's like I said,
Yeah,
Sam Pepper did his ACL.
yeah.
Um,
Some
there
other
were a few
injuries
other
at night.
injuries as well. I reckon that was the game that Vicentini rolled his
Yes.
ankle,
Yeah.
and I think Radicalier might have
But yes,
did
we lost
his
Brady Gillier as
that
well
game.
early in the
So
game.
losing three players is not good.
That's
And
right. The bench was pretty short. That's right.
Brisbane were the better side, but not by 5 goals.
No,
But that those three injuries certainly hurt us. One, not only for that game, but also for the rest of the season. Just again highlighting that lack of depth in some of those areas. And
absolutely.
so yeah, not unexpected to lose to Brisbane,
No,
but we were highly competitive. Again, over the years we've had really good stoushes with Brisbane. There's more often than not the games are generally pretty close. Yeah, unfortunately we're on the wrong side of it on that day.
round 18, we take on West Coast at Adelaide Oval. I guess it was the Reed versus Port Adelaide game. I guess at that stage of the season, everyone was kind of watching him and seeing what he's doing. And he's been a bit of a star for them, of course. But at times, of course. But the Port Adelaide were able to kind of get over the line 12-15, 87, 9-7, 61. But, a 26-point win again, as you say, against West Coast, a really horrible side. We're at home. We should have, should be smacking sides, like that. But we get over the line, and it's again, you say, move on to round 19.
Yeah, the only other thing to remember in that game is that's the game that Horn Francis broke his foot.
Is that
Played the
as
second
well?
half with the foot injury, and that yeah was discovered to be broken. And yeah, Reed's good on the app, but uh, he'll be a good footballer, but he probably needs to focus a little bit more on winning the ball than trying to have the
Yep.
chirp in someone's ear.
He
It's
was he was really kind of chirpy, and for a for a side that was obviously not it was pretty competitive, and
yeah, yeah,
he was chirpy. Yes, he was giving it to Horn Francis that game. Yeah, we lose
yes,
to Hawthorn in round 19, 13-9, 87. Hawthorn to Port Adelaide 7-7, 49. Yeah, a game where they put the cue in the rack. Saturday afternoon down in Launceston. We were, I think we were knowing what was happening with Ken and Trevor at that time. We're kind of getting an idea of what was kind of being forecast for the end near the end of the season. We could see it on the horizon. I'm not sure how. I think at that stage it was. Yeah, I don't know if the club had kind of announced anything big time, but yeah, we knew what was going on, and it was a game just to go through the motions. To be really honest.
that was down in Tasmania blowing a hurricane, and we started well, but Hawthorn went in their forward line, I reckon, 5 or 6 times, and they scored 3 goals too. And um, at quarter time, even though we were in front, it was only by a point or two, and it was almost game over because it was probably a 5 or 6 goal breeze. And then in the second half, the rain set in, and yeah, a side that's finals bound versus a side that's sort of realizes that finals are a distant uh, opportunity, and that's how you get the final result.
Okay, mate. So we go to round 20, 26th of July. We've got a big game against the Crows again. This is their home game. It's of course at Adelaide Oval, but it's a 98-point smashing. Look, the Crows at that time were on fire. Probably pity that we didn't play them in September. That would have been handy. But a 2013, 133, again, 5-5, 35. I think we've done that score already throughout the year. So that was just another horrible performance, but also not only 5 goals, five being just crap, but just allowing 20 goals through. Yeah, horrible, horrible night. One to forget.
Yeah, no, the vomit emoji is probably the best way of describing that game. And unfortunately for Ken Hickley, that was his biggest loss as a Port coach
Yes.
in his tenure.
Following week, round 21, it doesn't get any better. We go back to Geelong. I say back to us, and we played against Geelong before, and we've gone back to that place we've gone before. And as you say earlier on, that we beat them in Geelong the year earlier, and I think I remember in the week the lead up to this game, that was the most silver lining kind of glimmer of hope. But hey, we beat them once before, and they smashed us. 23 goals were given up that game, 23-15, 153, and 9-11, 65 from a 98-point loss the week before to an 88-point loss. It was not getting any better for Port Adelaide near the end of the season.
No, no. Look, we had we used 35 players during the season, and obviously that doesn't include players that didn't play for us all year through
Yeah.
injury, like your Todd Marshalls.
3 games to go. We got Fremantle, Carlton, and the Gold Coast, and you look at that with over kind of look over the 3 games itself an entirety blanket game of 3 games. You say all very winnable games, especially when you go Fremantle with patchy. You look at Carlton again, patchy, and Gold Coast, whilst really, really good, that's a last game with building that up with a farewell. So I had some lot of confidence going into that game against Fremantle on a Saturday night, round 22, and yeah, Alex Pearce kind of won it off his own boot as a defender right at the end. Was that close of a game. We didn't play horribly. We lost by 6. Again, quite competitive, but anyway, good signs with a lot of those youngsters. We're saying some of the new players, and I guess this was a game where we're showing Josh Carr the future again.
Yeah, look, absolutely. The second to last home game, the psychological side of things is that they're trying to get a win for like Travis Boak, who'd
Yep.
indicated by this stage that it was its last season. They knew that Ken's finishing up at the end of the year, so they absolutely gave it everything. And we looked like a real hot chance at halftime. There were 2 or 3 key moments during the game where we burnt the ball, just in terms of disposal, and turned it back over to Fremantle, and they heard us on the scoreboard. And yeah, then key defender pushing forward and taking a hanger and kick and goal has feels of West Coast in the elimination final of a few years ago.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
and yeah, look, they're the sorts of things that need to burn in the belly of the club and be a motivator for next season. In that they're the sorts of games that when you're playing at home, you need to, even when they are arm wrestles, you need to convert them into a win if you're wanting to play finals footy.
I remember around 23, I was heading over to overseas. I was kind of doing that through 3 week trip away, and I watched the game in Sydney before my flight with my sister, and I remember just surprised that Carlton played such a great game. It was really surprising, again, but they've had patches of good games and bad games, but we played such a bad game, but I think we were just really waiting for the following week and just we weren't probably focused or anything, but a Saturday afternoon game, round 23 at Marvel Stadium, a disappointing loss, 18-10, 118 with Carlton to 9-10, 64 Port Adelaide. Last game away, we got a game at home the next week, and you feel like maybe even late in that game, the players' eyes were just on Gold Coast the following week.
Yeah, look, just it's almost like the sides that played each other, Carlton and Port, when we touched them up, it was like they changed Guernseys. So where
Yeah,
we played footy and they played poorly, we returned the flavour. And yeah, again,
yeah,
the mental side of things is so important, and you only need 2 or 3 people to be switched off or having an off game, and then suddenly
yeah,
a few other people just suddenly jump off, and that's how you get like your 9-goal beatings to a
was
pretty
going
average
to
Carlton side.
another 54-point margin. It's a big margin. Big, those big numbers are just still adding up. And I guess at this stage too, Fremantle, whilst probably just got some more team goals, I feel like, and so of course Gold Coast, but Carlton and Port Adelaide, there's a lot of individual pride, and I don't really feel like at that stage, Voss and look, Voss, so Voss is the coach, they're still in everything, but I question how much he had of the at least that Carlton team that season, and so you've got a lot of players just playing for themselves, and so that's why you kind of get a lopsided
Yes.
result either way. There's bit of almost luck involved in what kind of plays out as opposed to anything that's kind of being pre-planned. So that's
No, no.
especially when you see like amount of errors and like as you say, poor kicking and stuff. So you're leaving a lot to chance, and that's kind of there was some things though. Again, not that game, but the kind of games where we're playing pretty well and pretty competitive. Probably even in that game, I from my vague memory, Jack Whitlock again. Yeah, there's a couple of really good lead ups and some really good signs just again for the future. So it wasn't all horrible, but our side wasn't really going out for any. There was no finals on the line, and so when you got not much to play for, it is really a bit of a potluck of who is really focused to absolutely not lose in that game. And there's a mindset that our team probably the last second half of the season just the winning mindset that they've had for many many seasons with Ken. Yeah, we just didn't have that as we say from the beginning of this podcast from after 3 or 4 rounds, 3 and 4 when you lost to St Kilda. Yes, obviously you can have your spikes and have a big game against Hawthorn the following week, but it's just going to peter out and it doesn't have sustainability to like it had previous seasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I'm sure they never necessarily, well, maybe they did flag it, but you've got your next season coach, and Josh Carr is involved in the coaching, is watching the game, is seeing
Yeah.
what the players are doing. And as we've talked about, I mean, you can work as hard as you like to be as fit as you like. You can work on your skills and your team tactics so that you're the best that you are. But one of the things that you can't train, but you bring as an individual, is effort. And
Yep.
they're things that people notice. And like some of the moves that Port have made at the end of the season
Yeah.
indicate that it's not a hard reset, but we've certainly made a clear change in direction as to what we're doing as a club. And at this very early point in time, it looks like for the better,
Absolutely.
which is positive.
So, mate, I've been looking forward to talking about this game. Round 24. I was overseas. I watching this game from Okinawa, and yeah, exciting as Friday night. All the eyes on one man, let alone one team. And no disrespect to Kenny, but all eyes were just on Boakey.
Oh
Uh,
no, definitely, definitely.
10, 11, 71, 9, 13, 67. In a way, Gold Coast sort of kicked themselves out of it. Hardwick said a couple of decisions probably went our way. The umpires kind of got carried away, and hey, things finally went our way once. But it was a very emotional game. I felt that through the iPhone and the laptop and stuff from when I was watching it literally on the other, not the other side of the world, but not at the game. And imagine if you were literally just somewhere around the country watching it, you could still just feel it coming out of your screen. There was a win against the Gold Coast who, his Suns were really competitive. Look what they did the following Wednesday, I think, against Essendon. They just spanked them, and yeah, that's a team that we lost in round 3. So that was a big win. Pokey was exciting, and the team got up for him. I think we got out with a goal straight away from the early on. Whitlock, we had a goal within a minute or two of the game, and just very, very exciting. So, your thoughts on round 24 against Gold Coast?
Oh, look, lots of the players and several commentators said that that was the loudest crowd that they'd ever heard at Adelaide Oval. And that's a credit to the supporters. I mean, look, the the regard that they hold Travis Boak in probably brought in an extra 15,000 people. If that was a player of such high regard, we probably would have struggled to reach 25, 30,000 people there, but we cleared 40. The intensity, the amount of tackles that the side laid, like Matty Rao was caught holding the ball several times, and he's just so strong and can bust tackles.
Absolutely.
If the Suns were coming along with the view to we win this game, we're still a chance of playing top four. And so,
it was that game on the line. There was a lot on the line for them, even though they had the game against Essendon. It's got to be remembered there was it was so much momentum. They should have won that in a lot of ways, but in other ways you could. That's what you're hearing when you say they should have won. You've got Port Adelaide players and going, nah, you were never going to win that.
No, absolutely. And one of Ken Hinkley's mantras has always been, "You get what you deserve." And Travis and Ken and Chad Corns. Yeah, so that they all deserve to go out winners, and just the emotion from the crowd, from the players, was clear that they were very happy that they were able to send them off deserved winners. And the other thing that stuck with me was that I know that Boakey and Ken were very magnanimous after the game, but Gold Coast shook hands and then they disappeared. An extra 2 or 3 minutes just to be part of the guard of honour of such a much loved through the AFL player in Boakey's last game. I think that was a little bit poor. Look, yeah, sure, they had a game on Wednesday, but 5 extra minutes wasn't going to impact adversely on their rehab. I think that they were just so gutted to have lost that game. But yeah, look, very positive way to finish the season. Nice way to finish on a win, but the season as a whole was well below what the side and supporters had expected to occur.
And as we just look at that, so 23 games played, 36 points accumulated, as opposed to the 72 that Adelaide got. So a 79.8 percentage. We won 9 games, we lost 14, and we go, I guess, with a third on finishing 13th on the ladder. So there is nothing but upside for the future, mate. That was 2025 wrapped up on field. Kind of move on to what's happened since.
Chad Corns, they said they weren't going to renew his contract. He's now taken on the head coach's role at Goodwood Saints.
Okay.
Apparently the offer or the opportunity to coach Glenelg was there, and he turned it down. But he was very clear that he'd had lots of conversations with Ken around helping him to make his decision, and Ken's also said that he's happy to help Chad out. So based on what they were saying, I'd expect that there's a few games during the season where Ken will go and watch and provide him with some feedback just from a coaching perspective.
Goldsack.
Oh, no, he's off to Collingwood. He's dead to us now. So Jason Williams has gone over to Hawthorn. So, but also you've got Chris Davies has left, and he's gone to the head football at Carlton. So
Boak has also gone to Carlton as well.
So Carlton sort of, if you look in the fine print, it says Port Adelaide 2.0.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've had Brad Ebert, it was their runner. I think he's not doing that next year. But
he has left. He has left. Yeah.
You've got Frankie Evans, who's there.
We also got Corey Durden from them. So you're right. There's been a little bit of back and forth, and I'm hearing Butters might be going there if we do lose him. Carlton's one of the sides that might kind of get him as well. So.
If you look at the sides for the end of next year, Carlton have got they've got 6 first-round picks.
Yeah.
So if they were wanting to be a chance, they'd need to be offering an awful lot of money to Zak, and they'd need to be offering us an awful lot of those picks for us to even consider that as an opportunity. In terms of the incomings,
yes, let's talk about that.
So the first person to come on board was Andy Collins. So he's left Hawthorn to come and join as the Director of Coaching. So he provides oversight for all of the coaches and as a sounding board. He's been involved for a long period of time.
Yep.
Very storied player at Hawthorn. He coached West Adelaide over here for a few seasons in the SNFL. He's been with Hawthorn. Is known to Josh Carr.
That's right.
Good pickup. Then they brought in Luke Webster, who's been an assistant coach at West Coast for a long period of time.
That's right, Luke.
From the Frio days with Josh. A lot of talk of, well, why would you bring a coach from a side that's terrible? Well, he was also the assistant coach at the side when they were strong and they won the flag. So
Yeah.
he's got a lot of experience.
Plus, Josh Carr knows him really well, so that's where he's
Exactly right.
Mate.
Darren Reeves, who was the Glenelg coach. Glenelg have played in the last 3 grand finals. One didn't win this year, lost to Sturt, but they won the previous 2. So Darren Reeves has come on board. His role is team defence.
Yep.
And forward opposition scoping. So that's an important role, and that's something that he's renowned for from an SNFL perspective, but also
just to clarify, he's the Glenelg senior coach, and he
was, yes, correct.
Now he's been, and obviously that team has been playing. That's a big loss for them because they've been playing great footy, and I imagine he's had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. In recent times,
Sean,
who's left Gold Coast, he's come back to Port, so he's got the role of development, but also community engagement. That's something that he was well renowned for up at Gold Coast, and so that's a Port player coming back to Port after a decade up working on his tan.
Sean Lemons is a bit of a Port favourite too, I believe. So that's good. Like he's good having.
Yes, that. No, absolutely, very highly skilled, but used to be quite injury prone.
Yes.
And Mick Lisby, North Adelaide.
Mitchie, yep.
He's come across as a development coach, and for me, the most important part of all of the pieces, Stuart Dew.
Big time.
Fantastically and highly regarded when he was at Sydney as an assistant. From there, he went to Gold Coast, and I think he was dealt with poorly. I thought he actually had the side going in the right direction. I mean, who wouldn't want to jump on board Hardwick Styles and go, well, beauty, look at this list. I mean, you or I could go and coach them and have them playing finals footy as well.
Mate, I'm going to tell you about Stuart Dew, where I see Stuart Dew before Gold Coast had premiership success in every other side he touched.
Exactly right.
And
Port,
so
Hawthorn, Sydney.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking exactly. Thank you. The Centrals as well. He put every team. Centrals, Port, Hawthorn, Sydney, you name it, you're right. He's been there right to the finals and won the premiership with that team. So I can only feel like he's coming back, and it's actually a golden touch, to be honest. And his relationship and mateship with Josh Carr, they were really tight and great mates when they played. And Stewie Dew's back home in Adelaide. I feel like there's so much positivity for a side that's got all the new. It's not new players entirely, but some new players. But it's about the new structure and new regime, the new leadership. I feel like it's hit the ground running really well. In fact, with him, his addition straight away, there's less excuses to me. I think there's just a nice kind of gold standard to the team. He's really can potentially, after what happened at Gold Coast, as you say, it may be a little underrated, and so we'll remember how good of a coach and a good football brain Stewie Dew is.
Yeah, and the other things as well is once he left Gold Coast, he was with the Australian cricket team for a while there as well, and there you go. They went on to win the World Cup. And then he went to Brisbane in a part-time capacity, and then last season, the season just gone in an assistant coach capacity. So again, everywhere that he's been involved and has his
Mhm.
fingerprints on, there's success that is immediate or follows around that. And they also have brought in another the head of fitness.
Port Adelaide has finalised just their 2026 AFL coaching panel. Just the details here have come up. The Port Adelaide has completed its 2026 AFL coaching panel, led obviously by Coach Josh Carr. So Hamish Hartlett has also been elevated to an assistant coach to manage stoppage, contest, and opposition analysis. As you mentioned earlier, Darren Reeves will assume the responsibility for the forwards. Senior assistant Stuart Dew will take the midfield, and Luke Webster will lead the backline. So Jacob Surgeon has also been added as a development coach as well, and he'll lead the SANFL side. So looking after the Maggies will be Serge. And Cam Sutcliffe will also continue just in his role as the development coach alongside Mitch Clisby, as we mentioned earlier, with Mitch joining, while coaching director Andy Collins, as you mentioned earlier as well there, Gavin, Andy will support the entire group. So he's going to oversee the whole coaching group. Matthew Loby also remains in his current position as head of development. So previously, Serge had served as a SANFL development manager and an inaugural academy coach at Port Adelaide before progressing to an AFL development coaching role for 3 seasons in 2015 to 17. So it's good to have him back. He joined North Adelaide as a coach of the reserve side before promotion to the seniors in 2020. So he's obviously got a good relationship with Josh Carr as well. So that's great to have everyone on board. It feels like just a natural progression. So Matthew Richardson, the CEO, is doing some great stuff with his whole entire selection. I think I like the look of the coaching panel for 2026.
There's significant changes in the coaches area, but experience and already good connections beforehand. So they haven't worked together as a group,
Yeah.
but Josh Carr has obviously had a large input into aspects of that, and some of those people have come directly because of the relationships that they've had with Josh Carr previously.
Absolutely. No, I'm excited and looking forward to seeing what Josh can deliver. So on field, then we get Jacob Weir, who is from GWS. He comes at no cost, and I think he's just a free agent. And we get him. And what is his? Yeah, it's an unrestricted free
He's
agent.
a pacey left footer, plays on the wing.
Beautiful. And he's from
So
the Eagles in Adelaide already, so he's coming home.
yep, yep.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And
And yes, so as you say, yeah, classy left footer. So Jacob, where we then get Corey Durden in part of a three-club trade. He is I think, a little classy little forward for Carlton now, going to be a classy little forward for Port Adelaide. So he'll be very handy. I
yeah,
think that some of our forwards will like to see Corey keep the ball in the inside 50. So I like getting
and
him.
that was a good.
Yeah.
That was some good draft dealings there as well because we gave our pick 29 for this year, and I think it was a pick in like 61. And then so we got Durden, but we also got Carlton's second round pick back.
Yep,
Now, if you think
correct.
Carlton are going to finish mid table, then in reality, we've got pick 29 back for the year where we're looking at a father son and an academy player. So
Yes.
we've pushed our draft pick 29 back a season and we've given up, in reality, just pick 61 for Durden. And when he was fit and firing, he was a high pressure goal a game. So for me, he's an improvement on a McEntee. So we've let McEntee go, but we've brought in a player that brings a lot of pressure, but he's a goal a game, whereas McEntee's like who have a game here where he might kick two or three, but he wasn't
Yeah.
consistently hitting the score.
Now we say goodbye to McEntee. And is there any other players you remember that we've kind of said goodbye to that
Look, big ones, obviously Travis Boak,
Travis Boak, of course?
um, Rory Atkins.
Yes, Rory Atkins just
Yes,
highlighted his last. He got rewarded with the kind of the last game as well, which was really
correct.
nice. And yeah, that was
And
he could have a farewell and have his family there. So that was nice of Port Adelaide Footy Club to I guess in some ways, whilst he was a Port Adelaide, and once you're a Port Adelaide player, you're a Port Adelaide player for life.
Yes.
And so that by doing that, but also I still feel like there is a bit of reaching across the divide, because imagine there's a lot of Adelaide fans in his family and stuff. So have his whole family there to see him for his career, to kind of go out. I think it's classy of the Port Adelaide Footy Club to look after the Atkins family like that, and or look after
No,
the.
agreed. And
Yeah.
then after the season, Willie Rioli announced his retirement. So
Yes,
eager
Rioli
a
before
year to go.
Sloane, of course.
He said that he'd given everything that he could.
Yeah.
And look, there were a few things during the season, and certainly don't agree with some of the
Yes.
his approaches on there. But I can't begin to imagine the sort of the interactions that he has, one with opposition players, but two with
Yeah.
people over the fence, all for banter and all for um, in a jocular way, sort
Yeah.
of having a bit of a payout on an opposition player, but not just for Willie, but from a Port perspective, he cops an awful lot of hate. That really big win against Hawthorn in the gather round game, he showed the footy back at KC Jath, and
Right.
there was an awful lot of like just racist, vile
Yeah.
posts on social media afterwards, just disgusting. And that's something that he's experienced through a large part of his career. So he, on his day, did the remarkable. I mean, like we've had like your Daniel Motlop
Yeah.
used to be a similar sort of like could do something incredible.
Mercurial.
So yeah, look, here's a big loss. Ryan Burton, we let go. Jeremy
Yes.
Finlayson,
Oh,
Dylan
of course.
Williams,
Yep.
um, and Hugh Jackson and Lockie Charlson. So Hugh Jackson was an interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple of games.
Like clearly, clearly there was stuff about him that the side didn't feel that his long term future lay with us.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, whether anybody else sees an opportunity for him, or whether sort of they feel that Port's astute in sort of saying, look, thank you for your services, but even though you're young, we'll move on with other people.
We also
So
We also welcomed one more player in from Fremantle with a exchange for pick 103. We got Will Brodie. He was taken by Gold Coast from the Murray Bushrangers, pick 9 in
yeah,
2016 draft, for making the move to the Dockers in 2021. So, yeah, 54 games at AFL level across two clubs, 27-year-old. So, yeah, he pivotal a player for the WAFL Premiership last year for Peel Thunder, obviously not getting games in the AFL. So, yeah, I think he'll be handy. Just a bit, as you say, a bit more depth there for us as well.
yeah. Look, he's akin to a Willem Drew,
Yeah,
um, or Ollie Wines. It's important to note the part of the reason Port were interested in him is Josh Carr when he was the
yes,
midfielder coach at Freo. Um,
yep,
he, he hasn't played at AFL level since over the last 2.5 seasons, but the full season that he played, he had 11 votes as a midfielder come the halfway point of
wow,
the season. So um, he's got a game that's of AFL standard. I did laugh. I heard Scott Cummins. He's on radio in
yeah, that's
WA.
Scotty Cummings, yeah,
They contacted him to say, well, look, what's the go here? And he said that he was like he'd been ripping it up in the waffle, and he said that he could have been sitting in the forward pocket smoking a cigar with no clothes on, and the coaching staff still wouldn't have noticed him. So look again. I think that we've kind of what could prove to be some astute pickups. These are people that
yeah.
have been on lists that haven't been consistent contributors, but
They call it Moneyball, yeah. So we
yeah.
found the
But
right players.
in terms of we've not had to spend much money on these, we're not.
Absolutely.
So yeah, look, it creates depth, but with that depth, that creates contest, and that's where I think that we've kind of what could prove to be some astute pickups. These are people that have been on lists that haven't been consistent contributors, but
They call it Moneyball, yeah. So we
yeah,
found the right
but
players.
in terms of we've not had to spend much money on these, we're not.
Absolutely.
So yeah, look, it creates depth, but with that depth, that creates contest, and that's where you start to see people bringing the best out of each other, and not everybody fits into the side. But if you've got people consistently knocking at the door, going, "Well, look, hey, you're not at your best. I'm the next cab off the rank." So that's where you start to see an improvement across the board. So
Yeah,
yeah, look, the off-field movements since the end of the season, some of them are disappointing to see people go, but that creates opportunity, and it seems to be that there's lots of positive changes that have been made that at this point in time should give Port supporters a real sense of optimism about the next season and the years ahead.
absolutely. As we exit the studio, mate, and thank you again for your time for this end of season review. The last player that I'm still glad we're going to be talking about next year is Zak Butters. Uh, to end the trade period and not to hear his name for any change. Phew, thank God we all kind of had a sigh of relief and just to ring that kind of trade bill, wrap it up, wrap it up. He does undergo minor procedure, so he on his adductor, so
Groin.
he, yeah, he's growing there. So, but he, hopefully, he has a big season next year. Falls in love with Josh Carr, just wants to stay in Adelaide, and fingers crossed. But if we do lose him, we make sure that we are compensated like hell for him.
No, exactly. Is either going to be the highest paid Port player by a lot,
Yep.
or if you look at this season's draft, I mean, Zach Merritt, 30-year-old,
Yeah.
Hawthorn offered 3 first rounders and a second rounder
Yeah.
and a
He
player.
wouldn't
And
budge.
so if they're getting that offered for a player that's in the top 30 players in the competition versus a player that's in the top 3 in the competition. So,
Yeah.
and what Sydney gave up to bring up the full forward from Carlton,
Yeah.
they gave up
Kerno.
three
Yeah.
three first rounders
Charlie Kerno. Hmm.
and a future second rounder, and I think they get a couple of third rounders back. But if Port keep him, that's fantastic. It'll cost us a lot, but if he chooses to move on, then Port should expect to, based on that sort of stuff, getting like three first rounders and a half decent player back in return.
Absolutely.
So either way, we're set up for the future. And Port have been very clear that they're going to look to invest time and effort into Nasiah Wangan Malera, so that in the 2 years from now, when his $2 million a year contract with St Kilda's up, that he thinks that he'd like to come to Port Adelaide and hang with some of his good mates and with a quality football club that plays finals far more often than the Saints do. So
the fact he took 2 years stands out for me. Like he's still keen to look around after that. So yeah.
yes, yeah.
Mate, thank you very much for your time. I really
No, thank you.
appreciate it with a thorough review of the season. It's good signs for the future. Josh Carr's got a little bit to play with. I still feel like there's a little bit of still under what's the thing I'm looking for development. We're still kind of got work to do for the team. I don't think it's going to be it's a top 4 side straight away in 2026, but I still feel like from 13th, I still feel like there's a justification to feel like we can
There should
actually
be a
go
balance. Yeah,
upward. We should bounce upwards.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, and
Thank you. Thanks
until
everyone
next
watching.
time. Yeah, thank you very much to everyone for listening and watching. And until
Go
next
the
time,
power.
go the power.